Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. In my Sunday chat, the last video, I did say there was a surprise coming this week. Well, it's come. It has arrived, and the fact that I've said it's arrived, those that know this channel probably have guessed that I've bought some orchids. Now, I went off the idea of buying orchids online a while ago and haven't really been doing much of that for some time now, but this is a company I've used before. So what we're going to do now is, as I talk through, I'm dropping clues, and the clever ones will follow along and try and guess what I've actually bought before we get to open the box. Take the money, no, open the box. But we are going to open the box. I'll swing the camera around in a minute. Right, so when I moved here, I had some very rare orchids. One in particular, virtually impossible to get, and it was actually a gift. Unfortunately, none of those made it. Especially that one that was a gift. That was a very big loss to me because it's irreplaceable. I'm aware that once upon a time, whether it's still there or not, I don't know, Burnham's actually had one in their private collection. One. I was shown it in flower by a very young orchid enthusiast called Archie. Now, who remembers Archie? A bulbophyllum specialist, I would say, despite only being about 6. But he was an incredible knowledge guy. He just disappeared. He went off away from the orchid world. I haven't seen him for years now. Anyway, some hints. I've started getting a few in again. There's a clue. And we're now going to get a few more. This is a good time of year for me to buy this type of orchid. So now you're racking your brains thinking, why is autumn a good time of year to buy these orchids? What's going to happen in this grow room from now for the next 4 or 5 months? Or let's put it another way, what's not going to happen in this grow room for the next 4 or 5 months? What are we not going to get? What we're not going to get is any warmth. So there's your clue. Well, these must be cool growers then. Correct. These orchids are often misnamed. Frequently, even by nurseries. There are several nurseries in the EU that still mislabel these plants. As a set, as a genus, they're misnaming the genus, not the individual variety or type. They get the genus wrong. It's outrageous. Now, you might sort of think, well, why are they getting the genus wrong? Well, there's only 6, and there isn't 6 anymore, not in the wild. There were only ever 6 of these orchids in the wild. 6 species. And one of them is now extinct as far as it is known. Still available in cultivation. Well, you can try and get it if you like, but good luck with that. So, let's turn around and have a look. I think you've had more than enough clues now. Oh, we'll have one last clue. They come into an alliance, you know. In fact, they come into the Oncidium alliance. And most Oncidiums are South American, yeah, sort of Brazil and all those bits around there sort of thing. And they come from medium temperatures, sometimes into the warmer end like that. These 6 do not come from that area. They come from a different part of the world. You need to head south to find these. And the next thing you have to do if you want to find these is get your hiking boots on and your climbing gear, because you need to go up. These are cool growers. And when you go up in those regions, what do you normally find? You normally find cloud forests, and that's where this group of plants comes from. So they are totally different to their cousins. That's why they were given their own genus. They are notoriously difficult to grow. they seem to do okay for a bit, and then they just don't. They don't like stress of any kind. So let's open the box. Enough guessing, I'm sure most of you got there by now. I'm hoping to just be able to turn the camera around and fiddle around, and we should be okay. Let's go up a bit, up, not down, and tip over a bit so you can see what's going on. Is that somewhere near it? Yeah, that looks about right. By the size of the box, these are not large plants. Right. Some of you will have already recognised the live plants label. So let's get the elastic bands off before they go boing in my face. And then we'll cut some tape. Oh, we will cut some tape. Oh, that's strong stuff. Whoops. There we go. Did we get any paperwork? Did we not? Go in there. Now, given the... Oh, I've got some paperwork. Jolly good. In colour. We have paperwork in colour. Right. That's for me, not for you. So let's have a look then. This company always packs orchids with a stake, and the stake is cut to fit the box exactly. So once the orchid's put in place, it can't move. The stake actually holds it in place against the sides. It's a brilliant idea, and it works. Reasonable size. These are small plants. When I say reasonable size, I mean reasonable number of bulbs and hopefully some reasonable roots. These are a pain in the whatnot if they go downhill. Right. Need some scissors now. Sellotape, the bane of my life. Still, it does a job, and it does it reasonably well. Now this is in sphagnum moss. I will also let you know that the company involved has recently advertised that they have just had quite a large shipment in from Ecuagenera, an Ecuador-based orchid nursery, grower, hybridizer, you name it, they do it. And that's quite an appropriate place to get these orchids from. Right, so obviously we have a Miltoniopsis. I suspect that this plant has recently been plonked in that moss in Ecuador. Let me think. No, it may well have been sent bare rooted and this company has plonked it in some moss. So first thing I'm going to do is take some of that moss off because it's surrounding the base of the plant and that's not on. It might even be wedged in there to stop the plant wobbling around, who knows. But we don't want moss around the base of the plant to that extent. It's too much. These are prone to rotting at the best of times, so we will keep as much as is necessary, very loosely, around the base to encourage some root growth. Not packed down, not jammed in to hold the plant in place. And I think that'll do. I'm happy with that. So what have we got then? What we've got is obviously a Miltoniopsis, and this one is called Dainty Lady and it's the variety Cherry City. So it's quite a long, complicated name for a Miltoniopsis. Most of the time those words would be replaced by hybrid, which is what this is, obviously. Now I looked this one up, and it's based, I don't know which way round it is now. I'll have to do pop-ups, but both of these are based on the species Miltoniopsis phalaenopsis, which is a convoluted name at the best of times. You know, make up your mind, what are you? But it is, Miltoniopsis phalaenopsis is a species in the Miltoniopsis set of 6 or 5 as it is now. So it's not a bad little plant. The pseudobulbs are healthy, they are plump. We have no sign of any spikes. That I'm not worried about. I'm more interested in a healthy plant. And yeah, there we go. So that's one. Put that over there out of the way. So these came from Spice Exotic. As I said, it's highly likely they have not long been in the country from Ecuador. So next, and that is a large plant. I hope that is one plant. If that's one plant, that's a corker. Well pleased if that is one plant. If it's several poked in together, that's a bit of a swizz, but as I said, I'm reasonably certain these are relatively recent imports, so they may well be recent plants. They may well be a reasonable size as a consequence. Oh, this sellotape's well on there. Right, so as you know, I've recently bought 3 Miltoniopsis. This now makes 5. I've often said, if you're going to do something, get on and do it and don't muck about. So I'm replacing what once was a reasonable collection of Miltoniopsis. So there's a huge big lump of, what you call it there, which will be replaced by some loose moss. As it was sort of right down where some new roots are growing. That's a good plant. I just hope it is one. If it is, that's a nice strong plant. Again, nice plump pseudobulbs, nice leaves. I was going to say nice green leaves, but the Miltoniopsis have a glaucous colour tinge to their leaves. And we've got no tag on this one, unless it came out with the packing. I don't think it did. Oh, there it is. It are loose. And this one is a Miltoniopsis phalaenopsis. So this is the species, but it's a named variety. John, I think that's leather. It could be heather. I think it's leather, one or the other, but I'll look it up again. So this is actually a named variety of the actual species. Right. So now we know that's the species, we can go back to that one. This is a hybrid fundamentally of Vexillaria and Phalaenopsis. I used to have Vexillaria. In fact, I have Vexillaria, recent acquisition. So I've got the 2 parents of this one. There is a touch of something else. It's not a 50-50. It's a hybrid of, I think it's 50% Vexillaria, and then the rest of it is Phalaenopsis with a touch of Roselii, which is the very rare one, and the incredibly rare one is the yellow variety of Roselii, which is the one I once had. Chances of ever getting that again are 0. Can't see me ever coming across that again. What a shame we lost that. Right, so again, this one is showing some roots in the pot. Not, I wouldn't say a pot full of roots by any means, but it's a nice plant. It's a nice plant. Now, these are cool growers. Some of the Miltoniopsis species are cool to cold. They really are cloud forest dwellers. They come from up in the cloud forests. So they don't like bright light, they don't like heat, they like good humidity, and they like to stay damp. We're going to get away from saying they need to be constantly moist, because I believe that encourages people to chuck too much water on things. Yeah? So these are cool to cold growers and come from cloud forests. That's why it's not a bad time to get them in the autumn. They will have time to acclimatise to this place before they're subject to any form of heat, because they're not going to get any, because I ain't paying for it. Yeah, I'm pleased with those. Very pleased. That is a nice plant. Let's put the label in. And they are in moss and bark, that one. Moss and bark mixed. I think there might be a bit of cocoa husk mixed in with it. That's a suitable mix for this plant, as long as I'm very, very careful. And the fact that it's in a clear pot, I can be very, very careful, because I can see when that starts to head towards dryness. And it can have a trickle. It's not ever going to get a watering, not until I see a pot full of roots. But while it's progressing and establishing in this pot, in that media, it will get a trickle now and again as it starts to head towards dryness. But it will never get a soaking, not till it's established. Now this is a much smaller plant, obviously, and I've never heard of that particular hybrid. Now there are a couple of roots showing in there. This pot, in comparison to this one, is quite damp. You see the difference in the colour. You see this one's got a more fawny colour to it. As this type of dried sphagnum heads towards dryness, where it started from once upon a time, it's almost white. Yeah? So a nice fawny colour means it's drying out, and the more browny colour means it's damp. Yeah? If it's a deep brown colour, then it's wet, and the chances are that means it's probably too wet. Anyway, those are my two new plants. They weren't cheap, but you know, considering where they've just come from and the cost of exporting and paperwork and everything, I haven't been charged a fortune for them. And I will show you the pictures. So that's what they will look like if I can ever get them to flower. We can only hope. So those will go over on the same shelf as the others. They will all group together. They're on a low shelf. They're away from the glass. So they're, you know, given the short days this time of year, you'd have a job to give them too much light, even if they went on the top shelf. But these are shady growing plants. They're shade lovers, they're cool growers, and they like good humidity. They don't like dry air at all. You often get the concertina leaves on these, certainly within the hybrids, if they're underhydrated and or the air's too dry. So these are classed as finicky because they get upset easily. They can get upset by drying out. They can get upset by the air too dry. They can get upset by the light too bright. They can get upset by being too warm. They can get upset by having their roots disturbed. You name it, it upsets them. So what's the best thing to do with them, if you possibly can, is leave the flipping things alone. And only repot when you absolutely have to. Which, given that these have been potted up recently, I know they have, they can stay in this moss till at least spring. And possibly even the next growing season, we shall see. But there's several new growths heading towards maturity on this plant. Who knows, we may see a spike. I can see a concertina leaf just to show you what I mean. That one there, just below the tip of my finger, if you can see that. concertina leaves. It's a consequence normally of inconsistent moisture at the roots. So too wet followed by too dry. Yeah, evenly just moist suits these nicely. Don't believe what you read in the books where it says they need to stay wet all the time. The thing is, you get fooled with these. Cloud forest is a strange environment because they are constantly wet in a cloud forest. You've got mist, fog, drizzly rain, sometimes heavier rain, quite shady, the moisture's there all the time. The plants are often wet, you can see the moisture on the leaves, but they are wet with pure fresh water, not sat in a pot for 10 days with the last lot of water you gave them. That's not the same thing altogether at all. Anyway, we shall see if we ever get any blooms on these. We should have some nice Miltoniopsis species, along with the other species I've got over there, which is the Vexillaria. I think that's a named variety as well, so it's not the pure species, as is this one, not the pure species. So there we go, that's what I got. I can't see me buying anything else this year. When I saw that Spice Exotic had a delivery from Equigenera, I thought, let's go and have a nose and see what they've got. And as I looked down the list, I came across these and I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to get them and add to the collection, because I can't see me ever being able to get hold of Miltoniopsis from anybody else. I mean, an odd hybrid now and again might turn up at Burnham's or via Lawrence Hobbs, but you know, they will come. They will have come from the EU, and they will be hybrids. Equigenera is probably one of the few places that can, can deal with getting plants en masse, in bulk, into this country, and Spice Exotic are prepared to deal with that performance, because it is quite a performance. So there we go, some new plants, add to the collection, and like I've always said, the people who contribute to this channel financially, this is the sort of thing you're contributing to. My ability to be able to get some new plants. Rather, because if I didn't get some contributions now and again, then I'd be dipping into me rent, wouldn't I? There's only so much of that I can do. Now, we do have a hassle going on at the moment. My car is in, having works done. It's got to have new shock absorbers and springs and top mounts on the front, along with new discs and pads on the front. There's something wrong with the driver's door, it's not locking properly, and also my rear number plate needs replacing. And last time the car was in, the guy said he doesn't think the pressure's right in the cooling system, which probably means the radiator cap just needs replacing. So he'd look at that as well. So it's going to be a big bill. It's going to be a massive bill, in fact. We might even be heading up towards 4 figures. That's certainly going to be well over half of that, and we shall see. But hopefully that will be ready by the end of today. But it doesn't matter if it's not. I don't need the car until the weekend, so it must be ready to pick up by Friday afternoon. Otherwise I shall want a loan car, because I've got to get to the Orchid Society on Saturday. So there we go, and most people enjoy some new orchids, and as I said, these are finicky. They can be troublesome, but I'm willing to give them another go with some plants that start out pretty well established in a reasonable state in this environment at this time of year. It would be not as easy to get these to establish if I bought them in spring, as my temperatures are starting to climb. So these have got all winter to just settle down and won't be doing a huge amount of growing because of the shorter days, but coming from a lower light environment, that doesn't affect them quite as much as some other types, and it should give them chance to settle in, get some slow but steady root growth going, so that they're more than able to cope with the rise in temperatures when it happens. I don't get huge temperatures in here. I think they should do okay. We'll find out, won't we? Anyway, thanks for dropping by. I'll see you next time.